But I'm sure we'll jump on that in a second. As soon as his intro go through.
Uh,
Yes, sir. We are here, October the 20th, 2024. Welcome to Triple Option. It's Coy in the building with Mr. 411. We're gonna tackle the college football for this week, and I can't wait for it, man. The track that you just listened to, my brother Terrence Jones. Make sure you check him out. Music by J Tones at gmail.com. Make sure you follow Mr. 411 on Instagram. Mr. 411. Same
Shout
thing on
out King.
TikTok. Oh yeah, big shout out there. And that voice you hear is Koi. Big shout out there. TikTok, Mr. 411. Make sure you follow us there as well. Um, and also follow my guy Cole from the Low on all social media platforms. And also follow my guy, The Nard Report, on all social media platforms. And also the simulcast is on Surge TV. So make sure you support Surge TV as well. We are on the simulcast. And of course, follow us here at 401 Sports World Network on YouTube. Definitely appreciate all of that good stuff. Corey, how you doing, man?
I can't complain. Best day ever. Ask me why, because it's today. And without today, you can't do nothing else. So we getting it.
Yes, sir. All right. Hey, man, we're going to go through the scores, man. We're going to also talk about that top 10 like we do every week. We'll talk about a team that is disrespected in the as far as the college football landscape. And so I know you can't wait to talk about that. We're gonna talk a little FCS action as well, because things are heating up for the playoff races in FCS. But let's go ahead and kick it off, man. You know the game that everybody has been talking about, and that's the Georgia Bulldogs and Texas Longhorns, and Georgia with the victory there over Texas Longhorns, man. What was your take from that matchup, man?
This week we saw Georgia basically play Georgia ball. If you take let's look at 2 weeks versus 2 weeks ago versus Bama. 2 weeks makes a whole difference in the world. Georgia came out against Bama and was a little bit slow. The defense kind of got punched in the mouth early, and they played from behind. But this time against Tennessee, Georgia played a Georgia game. Good defense, controlled the line of scrimmage, controlled the clock, and and then they just wore Tennessee down and won a Georgia game. Um, my take on it is the Georgia defense is always going to be the Georgia defense. Carson Beck, they say he's a top five quarterback. I don't know. I still feel a certain kind of way about that, but honestly, I feel that way about all the quarterbacks this year. However, they were able to maintain. He was able to put together long drives and put the points on board, and they slowed down the Tennessee offense, and they got them a nice little win. I hear there was a couple of controversial calls, and I don't want to hear from Tennessee fans or Georgia fans about what if this, that, or the third, because for every one that Georgia got, and Tennessee got one. So Shouts out to the Bulldogs. I guess you could base. I'm sorry, Texas. My bad. I'm talking about Tennessee, and my brain is saying Texas. Uh, Texas got manhandled by Georgia up front, and I saw an interesting thought by somebody that I respect. One of my OGs, Big B, Brinson Buckner. Georgia faced a team that was as big and as physical. I mean, Texas faced for the first time a team that's big and as physical as they were, and they came up short. So we're gonna see. But still, we're gonna go ahead and move Georgia to the class of the SEC, and Texas is still holds a solid number two. And we pretty much gonna figure out this matchup may come again when it comes playoff time.
Yes, sir. And I think that what you're saying there makes total sense, Corey. That's why you're the analyst, obviously. And but yeah, they may see each other down the road, and I think that will benefit Texas because now they're able to face, know what they're going to go up against. It's one thing. It's like Mike Tyson, right? Everybody has a plan so you get hit in the mouth. And Texas, this is what it's like to face, upper echelon conference team. Over the last couple of years, they pretty much didn't have to face a team at this level, during the regular season like this. So yeah,
Well, I mean, they
I think
still have
adjusting.
Alabama in the conference,
Absolutely.
and Georgia still has
They,
and Georgia still got to go to Tennessee. So we're gonna see. We're actually gonna
hmm
see. And this is in this conference right now. I know it doesn't look. I know if you're a fan of a particular team and you don't see the balance. I mean, you don't see the dominance, but the SEC has realistically three. Well, we're gonna only now. It looks like it's only gonna be two. My tide seem to be slipped off a little bit, but you have two
right.
perennial powerhouses. Texas on the move. Georgia has put itself in that spot. Alabama, we're gonna see the Bowls first season took a couple of losses, and you know how the Tide fans go. Will he survive losing two games? Because he's like, oh, it's the first time he lost two games this early in the season since 2007. Blah blah
Yep.
blah 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 blah. And then you got the Tennessees, you got the Ole Miss that are game teams that are right there on the cusp. I just don't think Ole Miss doesn't know how to be a target.
hmm hmm
Tennessee, they're helter skelter. But I like the things that Tennessee has done in the last 3 years, 3 to 4
Yeah.
years of becoming a factor in the conference. They're getting back to where the former well, not the majors, but the former days where they are legitimately a challenge. I was gonna say in the East, but we no longer have sides, which kind of sticks in my craw. And then you got Oklahoma sitting in the background
hmm
with a little bit always going to be Oklahoma, and then Missouri game opponent. So I mean the conference is on the upside, and then when you look at the bottom, what we quote unquote call the bottom tier teams of the conference, the Kentuckies, the Ole Miss, I mean the Ole Miss, Kentuckies, the Vanderbilts, the Miss States. You
South
can't you
Carolina.
can't South Carolina. You can't sleep on none of those teams because they're liable to pop up and take a victory from some of the dominance as we saw when Vanderbilt took out Alabama. So
Yeah, I think we're just seeing a lot of that parity coming. I'm wondering if it's this NIL stuff and transfer and
that has a
players being in
lot to
transfer as
do with
much.
it. That
hmm
has a lot to do with it because if I'm not playing, I can go somewhere and there's places I can go to play. So that's gonna it's the new law of the land. So you just gonna these teams and coaches are gonna have to adapt. That's why you
Yeah.
see the legends like Saban leaving the game because they don't want to deal with it, and
Right.
I can understand him on some levels, but at the end of the day, it's hard to tell somebody that you need to wait and you need to stick around when you are a rich man loves to tell a poor man to wait his turn. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So
Oh,
so I
absolutely.
get it. I don't. I think there is some things that need to be done with the NILs and the transfer portals just for the simple fact that we only hear about the kids that make the money versus the kids that are caught up on the other side. So there's definitely some things to look at And also, the end result is the schools and the NCAA still win because you know who don't pay the money out? The
They don't.
NCAA and the schools,
Yeah.
right? And they
They
still get
sitting
their
back
big
like
sponsor.
fat cats.
There's still no revenue share between the conferences, the teams, and their players. It's just, and then it's getting to the point where they don't figure out a way that they'll start hiring GMs and other people in place to control who gets the deals and how to get the deals. Because it's not what everybody think it is, where a kid can just go out there and work his deals. No, because they have to pass a clearing. Basically, I'm gonna call it a clearinghouse and say, yeah, this deal is up and up and blah 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 blah. So
Yeah, man. So yeah, that's the beauty of this, man, and it ties.
because the NCAA still
Yeah.
can lever sanctions, and if that means that they still have some say so with who's allowed to do what. Anyway, on
Oh
to the
yeah,
next
man.
game.
Absolutely.
Shout out
And
to
like I say,
Georgia. Now you have
hmm
a power. So basically, the two top teams, one in the West, one in the East. Good job.
yep. And again, Texas. Now you get to see what it's like, against the Georgia team. Now you may have something to work with if you face them again.
I kind,
But hey,
I
man.
kind of, I kind of wanted, I still wish it was the East and West because I wanted
Yeah.
Texas because ah, Georgia. Okay, it would be. I mean, yes, I would say the class of the eight. If you want to go top teams in the SEC, it's going to go straight down this line. You got Georgia, Alabama, Texas,
hmm
LSU, Oklahoma, Miss State, Tennessee. Right? If we still had the old factions, East and West, Texas and
Right.
Oklahoma would have went West, and it would have been kind of neat to see how because there's so now that you got those two teams in the conference, there's so many matchups that we got to wait to see. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because
You gotta wait.
being that all the power was in the West right now, it would have been nice just to keep the conference split in half and let Texas, let Oklahoma go through the gauntlet that was the West SEC West, meaning they had to beat the LSU, they had to beat whatever. You can easily set up a cross division rivalry if you wanted to for Texas to be somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, one of my thinkings was quite move Alabama east. Now you got Georgia, Alabama every
Well,
year fighting for the East supremacy.
if you move Alabama east, that means you got to move Auburn east. Because
Yeah.
because if you're gonna build it into two sides, build it geographically,
hmm
not like the ACC did, trying to pit two teams against each other, but geographically. So if you're gonna do that, you if you pick up
Missouri.
two teams, Missouri would have to stay in the West
Right. They stay
because
west.
you
hmm
well you move them to the West, and
Right.
that in turns makes Alabama and Auburn two East teams, and the conference are where they are. They kind of
See.
and then you Alabama's, they have historic rivals. So Alabama would pick up LSU as the historical rival. Tennessee is now in the East with them, so that matchup stays in play. And then Auburn, Alabama, since they're all both on the East, they stay in play. Auburn, Georgia, Alabama would be there. Yeah, because most of Alabama's true rivals are in the East
Yep.
outside of
It works
LSU.
out. And what a hell of a race, man, for the Eastern Championship.
Well,
Like,
it would have balanced out the conference for now, because with the Gators down, it would have put two power. It would put a little
hmm
more power to the East. Texas and Oklahoma and LSU would be the
yep.
Dons of the would be the beast of the be the big boys, be part of the West. You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Ole
And
Miss
then
could
you
be a
have
contender.
Ole Miss. Well, yeah, Ole Miss will be in that. Well, Florida technically is at the bottom, but it'll be that Tennessee tier team
Correct.
until if they get there. Then you have your Mississippi State, you have your Texas
Oh,
A&M, and you have your
hmm
Missouri.
Yep. It would have worked
So
out, man.
it would have
It,
worked out
it,
just
it would have
yeah.
worked out nice.
But they
Yep.
with the with, but I hate when conference heads and leagues try to predict. and move and build their conference around what they think the playoff system is going to want. Because as we've seen, it was 4 teams, now it's 12 teams, now it's this. You can't. So it's better to just have a game plan, work it, and let it play itself out. Because it normally does. When you start trying to set your assets up in a way to predict the future, it never seems to work out. Because
Absolutely.
let's be honest, Du Bois was hot for a minute. Now he's not. Is he can he withstand? Well, we might as well jump into it. Du Bois lost to Tennessee.
Yep. Your
So
boys,
that's
Alabama, 17-24.
yeah. I'm talking about the coach, right? And
Yeah, I understand.
it came down to the same thing. And you've heard me say it again. Jalen Monroe is a hell of an athlete, right?
Agreed.
But there's just some things about the question I'll keep asking people. He's a hell of an athlete, but how good of a quarterback do you think he is? And people do not understand what I mean by that. My problem is he's so the hell of he's got the arm strength, he can make all the throws, but he doesn't make all the decisions. You can tell that he's coached to make the first read, and when he gets into having to make a second or third read, it seems like something's just not there. And I don't believe it's got. I don't go into that's just being smart or whatever. That's just grooming. I don't know if it's a quarterback coach thing. I don't know what's there in
Yep.
his ear, but it's like as long as he can play off his first read or his favorite receiver, and that's the other problem I seem to have with him. He fall in love with receiving. As dynamic as that young guy Williams is, some of those spectacular plays he's made were ill-advised throws. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Hmm.
So, um, well, I mean, well, this is pretty much after this year. Milroe's gone, so maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe he'll get what he need in the pros and kind of clean himself up, clean up the decision making, get more groomed into being a passer versus a running quarterback that can throw. Because
Hmm.
I would tell anybody I want an athletic quarterback that can run more so than I want a running quarterback that can pass. One, I get better miles out of him. Two, I get better decision making out of him, and he'll prosper because no matter how fast you run, no matter how athletic you are, I can throw the ball 30 yards down the field faster than you can run down the field,
Absolutely.
and a lot less damage.
Yeah, Corey.
We have
I,
running
I
backs
would.
for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would be curious of how what his developmental process was pre-college. Like, how was he brought up as a quarterback?
Well,
Um, was he? You know what I'm saying? Because now you're in a situation that you would agree with me on this is that as you move up in levels, now even though you were the most athletic player on the field, that changes. You
well,
know what I'm saying? As you go up levels.
you still, a lot of times they still are, a lot of times those kids are the most athletic player on the field, even on the next level. But the problem is, you got a whole bunch of more people that are athlete
Hmm.
or just are really good athletes. It's the numbers game. Well, when you start, okay, you get a high school team, right? Or
Yeah,
you get a kid that your best option to win is the ball in his hands, right?
absolutely.
What's what's the number one player? What's the number one position to make sure your guy has the ball in his hand every play?
Quarterback.
Quarterback. That's right, because they touch the ball every play. So now, fundamentally, you got one part of it done. Even you most of the time you see these dynamic wide receivers, all these dynamic athletes, and they play quarterback in high school because they're the one player that the team knows if I put the ball in his hands, if I give him touches, if I give him this, they can react. And then as they move on from college and they get into a place, they can the colleges figure out where exactly they want them to be. So
Yeah. Well, so with Tennessee, are you a believer more now in Tennessee now,
Mhm.
or is this more, or is it less, or is this more about the decline of Alabama?
It's not. I would say it's not a decline of Alabama. It's just that you got. It's the facts of life. You got a new coach, new system, right?
Yeah. which means
So
like two. I mean, two losses since 2007 at this point in the season.
again,
You know, that's
again,
not what they're used to.
again, the greatest
So is it more
Alabama
Tennessee
coach,
or Alabama?
one of the two greatest Alabama coaches lost to UAB when
Absolutely.
he was at LSU. He also lost to, was it, I forget, it was some Southern Miss when he was at Alabama. I mean, the truth be told is you're not you have there's a transition of coaches, staff, and mentality no matter who takes over, right? Even though we laud Kirby Smart, there was still the first 2 years he just happened to get lucky, win one early, but there still
Yeah.
was a lot about, you could tell that there's that transition stage. Now, the question you should ask is, will the Alabama faithful and the powers that be talk about whether him losing two games, or him, will they actually give a time to give a fair assessment of a coach? Because I saw a thing where literally when they lost to Vanderbilt, they were talking about how the boys made a bad call against Arizona, a particular play, like plays against Arizona in a game that they won back however many years ago. And that's why I don't know if he's the coach for Alabama. When when you really look at it, the time he was at Washington, he only lost like 3 or 4 games in his whole time there. So
Yeah. A lot of
that's
variables.
what
You know what I'm saying?
there that's what he has to deal with. There's a reason why Paul Bear Bryant retires and died damn near a month later. There's a reason why you never hear Saban say, "I want to go back." That
Yep.
job there is one of those jobs, if not the hardest job for a head coach, because it is you're not playing for a conference championship. You're playing for a national championship every year, and it does not matter if you got a 4-16 or a 12-1 team or a 13-0 team. The alumni, the fans expect you to be playing for a national championship. And if you don't if you have one bad game or one bad year, they start screaming for your head. They
Well,
literally
Corey.
scream. Hmm?
Well, Corey. They. I mean, if you add the Georgia game, which could have went either way at one point, you're looking at three losses at this point. And
But
so,
they
like what
went
you're
but
saying, right? But what you're saying is like with the fan base, how much patience are they going to have? You know, it is
none.
a transition. There is a different coach. There is a
None.
different
I'm telling
system.
you, none. Either he
Wow.
gets it, if he wins, if he lose 2 games next year, you best believe the third year they're gonna have all the signs. Back when Bear passed and the coaches came in, they were putting signs in Curry Yard talking about dig them up.
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure we had time to cover another game that that me and we're going to talk about later.
Yes.
But Tennessee is a little prelude here to our top 10 list. I think they're going to move into the top 10, obviously, with that win.
Yeah.
Michigan, Illinois. Just want to bring this game up because it's 22 versus 24, all that stuff, but because of these, Coy, what's your thought of the helmet design there? The leather look of the helmet, man, for Illinois.
That's
Is
actually
this
kind of fire. That's actually kind of fire. I mean, I it's actually because I'll be honest with you.
and
There's
that's
only a
painted, Coy.
couple. I know, but there's only a couple classic jerseys that I don't think you should touch. Penn
Mm-hmm.
State's,
Check,
uh, Notre Dame,
check,
Alabama.
check.
I'm trying to think of
Michigan.
use Michigan, use Texas.
That's a clean look. Yeah,
Yeah, that's just the classic. It's Texas. OU, Oklahoma.
yeah.
Because Oklahoma can 1-1 with Bama. Um,
Those are good
use
ones.
USC, because of it's just that's just the USC look. That's the West Coast. USC and UCLA are traditionally there. Now, I
Yeah.
can't think of any other teams that I would say don't touch. Can you?
No, not don't touch. Um.
Maybe the
Oh
Auburn Tigers.
I'll say it's a cool. You remember like Florida State? That was a cool helmet in that. You know what I'm saying?
No,
During that
Florida.
time.
Exact. Actually, Florida State, because
Yeah.
that's traditional. Miami's have
Yeah.
done things with their uniforms over the years, so it's
Yeah.
not that big of a deal. But Florida State, the teams that you just don't, that you can't. And besides, Florida State, and it when that uniform when they their uniform has always been a modern look uniform anyway.
Right.
That maroon and
Right.
gold, it's always jumped off on the screen. But like those classic ones, like the plain Penn State blue and white, Alabama maroon and red black cleats, um, Oklahoma kind of maroon, kind of was kind of
Yeah.
reddish
Just
maroon.
basic
Yeah,
two
those
colors.
those
Yeah.
those yeah, the basic two color teams that are classic like that don't really touch. Um, then you have that tier of the Oklahoma, I mean the UCLA, USC. They've been
Hmm.
those teams have been,
For the
they're the
colors.
Florida, yeah, the Florida and the yeah. So because I've
Yeah.
I've I've gone on record to say that if you really want to talk about uniforms, believe it or not, the black college uniforms are light years as far as nicer than a lot of the
Man.
uh
Well, we can do a whole episode on that.
PWIs
FAMU's
uniforms.
helmet. FAMU's
FAMU,
helmet.
even the way
Southern's
Jackson,
blue.
even the way Jackson State does, they're black and I mean they're white and blue.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Even
just
like
it
the ones
just
they had
stands
on
out.
this weekend.
Yeah, it just stands out. It just stands out. So
We can't forget that black and gold from Grammy with the G, like
exactly.
and Southern with that
I,
light
I
blue.
believe I believe that black and gold from Grambling was the inspiration for the Florida State uniforms. Just change the black to maroon. See it now,
Mm.
don't you? Yep.
Hey, the more I think about that, yeah, Corey. But this helmet here, man, it's nice, man.
Yeah.
That was creative there, and
I mean they
I'm
have
certain
to
something
do
else will come along.
they have to kind of cater to the kids, and the kids don't want to be bored. But sometimes the classics are the classics. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
just like white forces. It's a pair of clean white forces. No matter how fancy, no matter how many colors, no matter how fancy your shoes do. If you want to step out and you want to put on a pair of sneakers, you can put on a pair of white Air Forces and some khakis or some jeans, and you look clean. It just is what it is.
yes, indeed. All right, well, let's do this, Corey. Since you brought up the HBCUs, yes, indeed. Since you brought up the HBCUs and their classic uniforms and things, let's go ahead and jump to the FCS game. That was a game of importance as well this weekend because the SWAC East is pretty much the winner is going to have the driver's seat there for the SWAC East, which leads you to the SWAC championship game, which leads you to the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta in December. So, which is the Black College National Championship game for Division One, and Jackson State with the 35-21 victory. FAMU has only lost three regular season conference games since joining the SWAC, and all three of them, not just three of them, all three of them out of those three have been to Jackson State. So they just haven't been able to jump over that Jackson State hurdle. However, the year that they did beat Jackson State was the year that they won the Black College National Championship. So
Celebration Bowl, yeah.
we'll say Celebration Bowl, absolutely in Atlanta, Georgia. So what say you about this matchup, Quay?
I want to. You correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, FAMU was number two, and Jackson was the fifth ranked team as far as black college football teams. I
That
think
is correct.
North Carolina
Yeah,
Central was
right
number
in
one.
there. Right.
Right.
North Carolina Central #1.
All right.
Oh, by the way,
The
before you say anything else too, just to help you out here a little bit, in the FCS overall rankings, uh, FAMU was ranked 18th, and Jackson State was ranked 25th,
22
going into the
or
22, 25, somewhere in there going into
in
this
there.
game.
Right.
So we had a top 25 matchup in the overall FCS as well. So carry on. This was a big game.
All right. Um, I watched. I didn't get to watch every down, but I watched the majority of the downs of the game. Um, I did have a problem with the dumb penalties, and I
Yes.
mean the 15 yarders, holding, false starts. Yeah, they're mental mistakes, but even no, no, I don't even like false starts. The holding, the little tic tac stuff is what it is, but the unnecessary rushing,
Hmm.
late hits. There was one targeting call that was bogus as shit. It was opinion called. A FAMU quarterback needs to know how to slide correctly, and
Yeah.
the defense and the defensive back was engaged, and it's like the running he's running, and then the last second he dropped, but I'm already engaged, and I've already dropped levels, and he still, man, it was a he did not lead with the helmet, he led with the shoulder. It's just the quarterback side to slide late. In my opinion, that's kind of one of those ones that need to be. I don't think so, but technically, per the rules, the quarterback slid and he still hit him. So, but
Yeah.
it's like a point of no return. That gets to could he may have tried to miss the quarterback, not hit him. But then when you get in, it's hard for people that don't play ball or don't understand when when your body's going one way to try to avoid stuff like that. It comes into you get into the dangerous category of trying not to hurt someone and hurting your trying not to get penalized and hurt yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
but
And some of those were costly,
uh
man.
Jacksonville, the quarterback facing left turner corner, they're gonna have to figure out a way to give that boy some support, which they kind of worked it out, but I think it was more to deal with Florida A&M's penalties and other miscues on offense that they kind of didn't get to exploit it. But if you notice, Florida A&M went down the field on 3 occasions, and basically it was expose that left corner, 13,
Yep, they did.
and bomb on his behind. Jackson State, they're a physical team.
Hmm.
Them two backs started chumping yards. There was a point in the game when it was still close. They started getting yeah, exactly. Mr. Mulligan. Mr. Mulligan is a monster. There was a point in the game where they started getting cute running, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
And then they went back to coming downhill. I get it. The play action, yes, the play action does set up the backs, but when they're gobbling yards like that, you pick and choose your play action to drive down. Uh, Defensively, like I said, there's some problems in that secondary. So we're gonna see how that's gonna work out when they go meet them boys from Central. Uh,
Yeah. It's
but
gonna
I
be
it was it
interesting
was it
for
was it was it was a fun game. It was actually a fun game. Like I said, the penalties does make it make them a little bit make the game play a little bit sloppy. Do you got the stats on the number of penalties and yardage for the game?
Yes, sir. There was Jack State had 7 penalties, 75 yards, and so did FAM. So we had 14 penalties in this
Yes,
game. It was a lot
exactly.
of penalties. It was a
And
lot of
that big
turnovers too, Corey. It was a lot of
well you
turnovers. There was 4 by
well
Jackson State, and
exactly.
there could have been 3 more because there was 3 bad throws where the quarterback was under pressure, and
Mhm,
the fam DBs had their hands on at least 2 of them that I thought they should have
mhm.
should have should have brought in. So it could have been up to 6 turnovers, and
Right.
I think that was a major key too in the game.
And you
But
average and so
Richardson,
you average 10 yards of penalty.
yeah. Now Richardson had a pretty decent game. He threw 3 touchdowns, and he played at Central Michigan before here. But there was a late turnover in that game where he got sacked. I think he held on that ball too long, and that sack fumble that pretty much flipped the score because
Mhm.
FAMU was up 21-20 at that point, and then Jackson State scored off of that
Yeah,
defensively.
I understand what you're
Remember that?
saying, but those plays like that to me in my world is that's the defense changing the tide of the game. It just is. He couldn't. He couldn't. He They shut down the reads and they found a way to get pressure to force a turnover.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, we can go into the bad decision makers of a quarterback, but usually, very seldom a quarterback makes a bad decision when there's no, when he has time to make a right one.
Well, I tell you what, Corey, they have big implications in the FCS scene, and it's not over. There's other matchups down the line. Alabama A&M will have some things to say about it late in the season because I think they play both teams. And Bethune
Hmm.
Cookman, even though Bethune Cookman lost to Division II Clark Atlanta this season, Bethune Cookman is still Division I team, and they play that rivalry game against FAMU back in mid-November, and so there's still some
Wait,
games to be played that's going to determine some
So A and
things.
M, so A&M, I thought A&M played one of them already.
Well, Alabama A&M, I think they play on. Oh, they moved that game because of the weather. That's probably why,
Okay,
Corey.
but
They
Alabama
moved that
also
game
A
because
and
of the
M A
weather.
and M got hit up in the mouth by somebody in the
They did.
conference. I can't. By who was that? Who they get in the mouth by?
Ah, I have to go back and get it, but I
They
remember
took a
they
bad
they
loss. They took a bad loss to
they
somebody.
did. hmm They did. It'll come back to me in a minute, but they still will have something to say about this race late in the season,
Right.
so we'll keep an eye on it and see where it goes from there. Hey, before we
I
go,
I hmm.
oh, go ahead. You got something to say there?
I still miss my MEAC. I really do miss the MEAC.
Well, I'm telling you now, the MEAC is on the rise because we haven't had a chance to dive into the conference yet, and we still got time on, with some episodes here. But South Carolina
Yeah.
State has now picked up Chennis Berry, who was the head coach at Benedict,
Well,
and
what
he
I'm
brought a
saying
lot of
is,
players
okay,
from him.
the
They're going to
MEAC
be in the
used to,
mix.
yeah, the MEAC used to be South Carolina State, Tennessee State,
Hmm
um,
They're in the Ohio
Howard,
Valley now.
Hampton, Howard Hampton,
Delaware State.
FAM, Delaware. You know what I'm saying? They had their own.
They had a real a bigger conference. Yeah, they're down to
Right, and
like six
they
teams
had
now.
right. Whereas we had you could go here for these guys and you can go there for these guys, and they all fought it out. And they all worked
Right.
their way to the Celebration Bowl. Now it's like,
It's just whichever one can come out of there, and
right,
then the
because
SWAC
they
is the one
all
with all the teams. SWAC got like 12
right.
teams now.
Well, when the MEAC when the teams start sliding away from the MEAC, the teams that because even FAMU fell into the SWAC because they're not historically a SWAC team.
They're a MEAC team. Yeah,
Hmm.
they was MEAC before that. Yeah.
Right. So
hmm
they kind of said, you know what, our bid to go 1-1 didn't work out, and now we're a man without a country. So and the MEAC is kind of pulling apart. So let's fall. Let's go back into well, we can. There's room for the SWAC in us because
Yeah.
originally A&M was a Division II team. They moved up
hmm
to the SWAC,
That's right. Absolutely.
and because the
I think
original
that's what the
SWAC
MEAC should do. Do you think the MEAC should target some teams that are like a Fort Valley State or you know what I'm saying? I'm giving you names of D2 teams, but like maybe find a D2 program that wants to,
Well, the
move
ones
into
that the
D1?
ones the ones that are that can hold their own. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Don't go to the park to find some kid to kick around. Maybe somewhere like historically powerful teams like Albany State, um,
Yeah.
Fort Valley State, uh,
hmm
hmm, Smith,
Those are
not
they start there.
Johnson
Start
C.
there.
Smith. No, who's left in the MEAC now?
Well, the team there's like six of them in there. Yeah, Delaware State, South Carolina State, uh, North Carolina Central,
Mm,
uh, Morgan State, Howard,
mm.
and I think another one's slipping me. I think uh,
Let's
it's
see.
another one that slipped me.
I would target bring A
But
and T back,
those are most of them. Yeah,
and I would
A and T. Yeah,
bring
A and T was not in there anymore. That I was trying to pull them, but they're not there. Yeah,
yeah
them and
A and
Tennessee
T
State.
and bring them back, and maybe pick up two of the Georgia schools, and that'll be straight up the East Coast.
Yep, looks
And
good.
then
But hey, man.
yeah,
But when you finish that, we got about 8 minutes.
all
I
right, let's
want you to
go.
talk about the Miami Hurricanes. I want you to talk about the Miami Hurricanes
All right,
and
my deal,
Cam Ward.
my deal. My deal is Cam Ward. He should be back in the Heisman run. One, two. Um, right now, all the Hurricanes are doing is beating the opponents they're supposed to beat. What's up? And the other part of it is, I think they're ranked sixth, and they've been in the top 10 pretty much all off and on. First, they wasn't even put in the top 10. You have Bama lost. They jumped. You have Bama. You have Georgia. You have Ohio State. You have who else lost? Ole Miss. You have all these. You basically had almost the whole top 10 losing the game except for Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
Texas. This is not. This is up. This coming into this week, right?
Right.
And Penn State. Those are. Can you name the other in undefeateds?
Not offhand.
No. And
That
Miami
is, I think it's them.
Miami remained undefeated. Power Five conference, whether we want to call the ACC that or not, and they still can only touch a six, and they may move up to five after this week because they're gonna jump. I guarantee Georgia's gonna jump them, and Texas is gonna stay in front of them, and then Oregon and Where's Penn State ranked right now?
Three.
And Penn State will stay in front of them, so they'll be, which it don't really matter, but I understand that, but when it comes down to if you want to go say competition wise, Miami's played reasonable competition to be an undefeated team, and they should be given their due. Am I a Miami fan? No, but you have to you if you're gonna make a rules, if you're gonna you got to do it fairly. Whatever reason, Miami's getting the Florida State treatment, the backwatch from what Florida State did last year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean,
yeah,
Miami. Hey, all they need to do is keep winning. That's what they need to keep doing. And then with this playoff format,
stay in the top 10. That's
yeah,
all
with
you
this
need to
playoff
do.
format, you get a chance, right? With this playoff format, so you shouldn't get washed out like Florida
Yeah.
State did. And I'm gonna name a couple
Yeah.
undefeated teams, Corey, before we go. We got about 6 minutes. You got BYU, Indiana, Iowa State, Army, Navy. I think Pitt's still undefeated. But as you was talking about the teams that are further up in the rankings, but Indiana and BYU, do you think they should be in the top 10? Oh, and Iowa State, because they pulled out a late victory,
Who's that?
38-35 over
Who's
Iowa
that?
State. Iowa State came back and won 38-35 over Central Florida. But do you think Iowa State, Indiana, BYU, do you think they should be in the top 10?
They should be at least in the top 15. I mean,
Okay.
but to be honest with you, we want to go by the game. It's the see the posters and the powers that be don't want to put certain teams in there because like Iowa State, Indiana, that's going to sort itself out. They're cruising for a bruising. Trust me. You know what I'm saying? Whether
Yeah.
it's from whether they got to play Michigan, whether they got to play Ohio State, whether they got Penn State, they're cruising for a bruising. So let them be what they be, because those two teams have definitely got powerhouses in their conferences. They got to get through that are quote unquote top 10 teams, right?
Right. Right.
So if they survive that gauntlet, then they supposed to be there, which means you should already put them there. Agree?
Well, I mean
I
that makes
don't.
total
I
sense to
don't.
me.
I
But
don't. I don't. I
you know
don't.
how they're gonna do this.
I don't. What I'm biased. I'm an SEC biased person, but I've noticed the way the posters are doing this thing and the way the votes are coming in. It's a SEC bias with Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan. Well, not Michigan now because Michigan
Yeah.
screwed the pooch, and a West Coast, one team from West Coast, but Oregon's always going to survive. Oregon does what they're supposed to do to make it. But the
Yeah.
bias is the way this 12 team is made out is too much SEC and I guess you could say Big Ten bias in it.
Absolutely.
So
Well, and before we go, shout out to Nard and Nard Report. Make sure you follow him on all social media platforms. Nard believes that Cam should be the favorite to win the Heisman. Uh, my pick's gonna be Ashton Genty out of Boise
Boy
State.
State.
I think if he sets that Barry Sanders type record,
Now, I'm about to say he's
um,
running Barry Sanders type numbers. Yes,
yeah,
I mean,
I
but
think he
then
got to
you
get that.
say Boise State is not on the radar as one of the teams, but he was a 3-star coming out of high school, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. So
That's a great point there, Corey, and that's what happened. I mean, it's a great story of how some players, it's like anything. You get rated one way, but you end up becoming this or that, and this is a great to
yes,
roll
because I
out of
mean,
here. But we about to roll. But do you have Oregon? Do you agree that Oregon is right now? Should they be the number one team in the country?
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
hey, they they survived. They're the lone survivor in. I mean, they're the only undefeated in the top five, right? Unless you're gonna put Penn State there, and nobody Penn State until they prove otherwise is always going to be the third best team in their conference, no matter if they beat the best two teams.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, that's what we have for today. Everybody need to tune in a few minutes here. Madeline Shellman, NFC welterweight champion. She's going to defend her title next weekend, but she's going to be in at 11:05 a.m. So make sure you check her out. Make sure you continue to check out Coy and myself and Nard and Philly Red Zone, Brooks and Cole from the Low on Triple
Yeah,
Option every Sunday.
yeah. Shout outs to Cole. He's coming back, people. And say, hey
Yeah.
Nard, you supposed to got your young self in here with these old men. And Brooks, where you at?
Oh well, boy, you calling them all out, Coy. All right, but yeah,
Yeah, and then
yeah,
I
we'll get
gotta
them.
get
We'll get the game
we
together.
gotta get my man Philly back in here because I like chopping it up with my man. So
Yeah, he'll be
hey,
back.
what I'm basically getting to y'all is we got biased takes, we got unbiased takes, but the thing about it is we got a bunch of different takes. So whatever your flavor is, you can come here and your argument's gonna be made because one thing I can tell you is none of us agree on everything. So
All right,
if y'all looking
all
for
right,
a
here we
Georgia
go.
shield, you ain't gonna find it. If you're looking for a Bama shield, trust me, there's gonna be somebody with some Bama hate. And then
it's there.
if you're looking for there's gonna be somebody with some SEC hate because there's always gonna be somebody here that's gonna tell you the truth. They may be, I may be SEC biased, but Mister 411 gonna come in and tell you. And then if you're looking for Division 2 teams, FCS or
FCS,
whatever,
yep,
we cover all the bases. So just come in, and one thing about it is, if you got a conversation, drop us a note, chat, hit Mister 411 up, and we'll bring you in here. And also, and if you don't want to come in here, we will break down the topic that you create for us. So there
absolutely.
you go.
Corey, I appreciate that, man. You summed that up great and a great way to close out this episode. I'm about to jump into studio, the next studio, so I can chop it up with Miss Shelby. All right, everybody,
Peace.
we thank y'all. Have a great one. We'll catch you next week. Triple option.